Welcome to the Copper State Marching Podcast, sponsored by the Arizona Marching Band Association, AZMBA. My name is Martin Hebda, the AZMBA Director of Education and Outreach.
And I'm Aaron Vogel. The AZMBA Copper State podcast was created to bring together the Arizona marching band community and to connect, educate, and entertain those involved in this wonderful activity.
It's great to see you, Aaron. Today we have our part 3 of our series on student leadership. So tell us, what do we have in store for today?
We're going to have a great conversation with Jeremy Spicers, hails from the Austin, Texas area. Jeremy is the owner and founder of Sassy, the Leadership People LLC, which does summer leadership and now concert leadership throughout the school year. He is a former band director. He taught at Cedar Park High School and Vandergrift High School, both crazy good band programs in Texas. And then he also co-directs or co-conducts a band in Leander called the Cedar Park Winds, which is a really fine community ensemble that's performed at TBA and performed at the Midwest Clinic.
Excellent, excellent. Well, the Copper State Marching Podcast has an email address so our listeners can reach out to us. We had a call out for end of the year or summer band dilemmas. We had a dilemma that came into us. The dilemma is, how do you find a good balance between summer practices so students grow during the summer and making sure students don't burn out?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I know just like most things we do, there's a range of opinions on the summer practices, going from weekly summer band, which is when I was in high school. We had a weekly summer band that my band director and the band program did, to nothing during the summer. Kids, will see you at band camp, and then everything in between. So I think finding a balance between those two things would be a good idea for me personally. In my last two programs, so at Mountain Ridge and at Westwood, we had a startup day at the beginning of the summer. So coming up here in a couple weeks before the kids left for the summer, where they got all the music that they needed to memorize. They were introduced to their section leader. The parents had a big meeting and a kickoff. And then for the director, for the winds, I should say, for the woodwinds and brass, it was, we'll see you 2 weeks before band camp. And then they had the next amount of time off. Section leaders were highly encouraged to run sectionals with their kids, which were more just summer hangs, more about building the culture over the summer. And that's the way that I personally did it. What are your thoughts on the summer practices?
I think every school is probably different and unique. And if you're starting at a new school, definitely look and see what has been done in the past so you can have a nice transition into whatever process you would like to do. I have developed over the years we have summer percussion workshops basically going on end of April and May to kind of get things set. And then during the entire summer, Casa Grande, we do 1 day a week. We do Tuesdays if you're in town that you come, and we do 5 to 9. We split it up so there's a little bit of visual or movement. We have everybody together for activities, icebreakers, get to know each other, and then we do some music as well. We used to stop completely until freshman band camp. And I learned by just getting a little bit of walking and then marching across the floor, it helps with foot timing to where getting the freshmen to start being able to get the concepts of moving and marching and having it be to where it feels natural. Getting that time during the summer helps a lot more as opposed to trying to do it all during freshman camp. So we
Yeah,
do that. It gets people feeling comfortable. They get to know each other, and we try to make it as enjoyable as possible.
yeah, and I think the key phrase there is that if you're in town, the
Yes.
IYIT
Yes.
is really, really key. You want to, you have competing interests. So you want the kids to be total rock stars in marching band, and you want them to get comfortable, but you also want to not do anything that would hurt your recruitment and retention. And
Right.
so finding a balance between that, of a parent being like, well, we have a summer trip planned, and the band director saying, no, you will be at this practice or you're out. Well, they're going to be out, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah.
So just doing things to make sure that, if you're in town, come on down. And if not, have a great time. We'll see you when you get back. And we'll see you when you get back, not, oh, okay, well, I lost this kid and he's now not in the program anymore.
Well, yeah, and then also in Casa Grande, we have a lot of people that maybe they go to their dads in another state for the
Mhm.
summer, and that's okay. Beginning of the summer, there's dance recitals, so students are going to miss something for that, or we have students come in that are doing citywide baseball playoffs or something like that. And we understand. We actually it gives us a great opportunity to work on communication. And then parents and families know that you do support the student and their interests as well. So
That's great.
a lot of different ways to do that and find what works best for you. But if you have any other things you'd like to email us about, we've got podcast@acmba.org. That's how you can get a hold of us. And before we start up with Jeremy, let's hear from our supporters. AZMBA would like to thank our sponsors: Arizona Cardinals Football Club, The Band Shop, Bravgo Media, Encore Gifts, Forte Athletics, Instrumental Music Center, MacPack, Milano's Music, Music Celebrations International, Music for All, Pieces of Flair, Scoreboard Fundraising, Show Dots, Tide Dry Cleaners, and Yamaha. Thank you for supporting AZMBA.
We now welcome Jeremy Spicer from Sassy Leadership to the podcast. Jeremy, thanks for joining.
Thank you for having me. Can't wait.
Yeah, man, this is great. So to those who are unfamiliar with you or haven't heard of Sassy Leadership or Jay Spice or Jeremy Spicer, can you tell us a little bit about your background in the marching arts?
Yes, sir. So again, my name is Jeremy Spicer. I founded Sassy in 2002 when I was a first year band director at Cedar Park High School, which was in the Northwest Austin area. Prior to that, in the marching arts, I had marched in the Santa Clara Vanguard as a mellophone player in 1998. Dean Westman was my brass caption head. Bill Watson was one of my mellophone techs. Jed Weeks also on the staff then. And prior to that, or not during that time, I was also involved. What is it now? Texas State University in San Marcos, but Southwest Texas State at the time. My band director was the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Jim Hudson, now Arizona State. Yeah. And prior to that, I was at Floresville High School, where I went to south of San Antonio, small school, south of San Antonio, small town, Floresville, Texas. So through all of that, and then I was at Cedar Park, worked at Cedar Park from 02. Well, I started in 99 as a tech coming out of the Vanguard. And I was a private lesson teacher and marching band tech at Cedar Park, learning the craft and the trade a little bit from the teachers that were there. And from 99 to 09, I was at Cedar Park in some capacity as a marching band director, jazz band director, and conducted the second, third, and fourth bands at any given point during that tenure. And then I was fortunate to open Vandegrift High School in the fall of 2009. And yeah, that's where my career took off there as a head band director. And then I stepped away from teaching full-time spring 2014 to grow the idea of this Sassy Leadership brand and see where we could take it. We had quite a few camps at that point, but I was seeing what it could be and how much we could grow it and we could expand nationally. And that's what we've done ever since. So that's a little bit about me.
Yeah, so take us back to that beginning of Sassy. Tell us about the name, how you came up with the name, and then just a bit more about what problem were you trying to solve for when you were starting up Sassy?
Well, my students had come back from another camp at the time, and they're all camps are great, but they had come back, and I was 22 years old or whatever it was, and I'm super excited. And they're asking me some of the things that they had, or I was asking them, like, tell me some of the things you had learned. Like, where are we? Where are you headed? What do we get out of the experience? And everything that came back was just, in my opinion, at the time, maybe I was a little overly confident 22-year-old, but it just seemed a little bit dated for where the marching arts were in terms of setting up students for success. They were teaching the things that we really didn't do anymore in marching band, or at least in the area that I was teaching in. We weren't doing those kinds of things anymore. There wasn't a big focus on actual development of leadership skills. There wasn't a big focus on actual development of teaching skills. And I thought the things that were being taught conducting wise maybe wasn't as current as it could have been. So they were telling me all these things. And again, overly confident 22-year-old. I was like, well, what are we doing? Like, we're not going to, it's cool. I'm glad you had a great experience at camp, but a lot of the stuff that they were learning wasn't applicable to what they were going to do at Cedar Park. And that's where we started talking about, well, we should just do this ourselves. What if we did this? What if we had our own camp? What if we started our own camp? And that's what we did. We started our own camp. We basically begged every student or every band director in the Central Texas area to give us a try. Like, we're going to try something new. I had reached out to a good friend of mine The original partners in the company were myself, the original head band director at Cedar Park High School, Ron Morrison, was one of the founding partners. And I brought on Nick Williams, who at the time was at the University of North Texas, went on to Melbourne Conservatory, and is now the director of bands at the University of Georgia. But I reached out to all of them, and I knew Nick could come up with something better on the conducting side of things. I would take care of kind of the marching kind of stuff. Ron would do some of the leadership things. And between all of us, like, let's figure this out. We can do it together. And we basically begged every Central Texas band director to come to a camp. And those of you who's familiar, I know this is Arizona podcast, but in Texas 35, right off the side of the road in Salado, Texas, there's a place called the Stagecoach Inn, and we basically rented the entire joint out and had our first camp, our first drum major camp at that place in '02, and the rest is kind of history. Now the name goes down as, I mean, you know how history is, but it goes down as what could be considered as one big joke. And what I mean by that is, when I was talking about the camp experience and I was talking to the students about what they were getting out of it and all of that, and then I'm talking to my boss at the time, who was the founder, and all of this stuff is going on the practice field at Cedar Park High School. And we're going back and forth and dialoguing. And one of the drum majors turned to me, him, us, all of us, is like, whatever, the camp was fine. Y'all are just being sassy. And the guy turned to me, he's like, that's what we're calling the company. And I said, over my dead body. Yeah, we're not doing that. Sorry. Why would we start a company that no one's going to take us seriously with the name? And his big thing was like, oh, whatever, like that you have no vision, Jeremy. Let's turn it into an acronym. It'll be our own little inside joke. And the rest is history. We misspelled it. We came up with 4 words. The words mean nothing. They're solutions and specialized innovations. Doesn't mean anything. The leadership people at the time, now it's just Sassy Leadership, but so much so after I think it was 4 or 5 years ago, I was considering, like, when I was trying to do more expansion things with the company and maybe branch out into other areas, into other organizations and idioms and types and all of this. So I was like, well, maybe I'll rename it. I'll rename the company. Like, well, we'll just do a brand switch. It'll be a good thing. We could do this. And I started reaching out to band directors and students that have been through it. And all of them said the same thing. Don't do that. Don't rename it. It's cool. It's unique. It's memorable. People think about it. And now we have students that are band or former students that are now band directors that are sending their kids to the Sassy brand experience. So yeah, that's a little bit about the history of it. It all just came out of trying to do something new and different.
And then you had that first year where you brought in students from nearby. And then what did the next year look like?
We started expanding into universities. So we had that first one, and then we started reaching out. Ron was pretty critical in reaching out to some college band directors. So, and we tried to do a regional approach. Originally, we were at the University of North Texas. We're at the University of Houston. We were at Baylor University for a while. We were at Texas State University, and we did things also down in Corpus Christi, Texas A&M Corpus Christi. We did camps at the University of Kingsville. So we blew out into these kind of regional drum major camps, on-site drum major camps. In addition, we started pushing what we called a site-based leadership seminar. And those same people that we tried to convince to send their drum majors, we started reaching out to, and hey, let us train your leaders. Like, we could come to you. We'll bring it. We'll tailor make it for you. Everything about the experience we're going to bring to you. We're going to have a curriculum, but we're going to meet with you prior to the camp, and we're going to try to tailor make this for the programs that we're going to serve. And just slowly but surely, we'd get 1 and 2. And for a long time, we only had 10, 11 camps, like just a few camps this summer, plus the regional drum major camps. And then we'd get another one. And then we'd get another one. We started doing a little bit of convention work and booth work at Texas Music Educators, TMEA, in February. And we did a little bit at TBA in the summer. But I quickly realized like that it wasn't doing what it needed to do. So we kind of quit doing that. And a lot of the expansion has just been word of mouth over the years. It's just, hey, I use these people and they did great work for us, and they talk to others and they talk to others. And I started bringing on, it was key for me to, if we were going to expand and make the company larger and try to serve more people, I needed to make people and it's cliche, but make sure that the people on the bus were the right people on the bus. So bringing on the right staff that I could guarantee were some of the best educators in the state of Texas at the time. And those staff would help recruit other band programs. And it just kind of snowballed, if you will. And we had a big expansion point right around, like I stepped away from teaching, like I said, 2014. We were probably in the upper 30s, mid 40s, somewhere in there, maybe lower 50s. I could go look it up, but somewhere around there in terms of total camps. We probably had 1 or 2 camps outside of the state at that point. And that's why I knew there's something here. Like if I didn't have the grind of the classroom every day and try to run this company, maybe we could blow it out. And we're now at 167 camps in 27 states around the country. So knock on wood for a continued expansion. We're doing things. We're working to expand this year specifically into orchestra, into choir, into dance. We have some key stakeholders that we're bringing on within those idioms to help us expand into those as well. We've done athletics. I've actually done seminars at the corporate level as well. I was able to do a nursing seminar. My mother was a NICU nurse for 40 years, so I was able to do a seminar with some of the nurses. So it's just been this slow expansion over time of just making sure that we have the right people on the team. We're continually trying to evolve throughout it all. That's one thing that was key to the development of Sassy is the constant evolution. That it always is not going to be the same. For instance, in the beginning, when I first started, again, maybe an overly confident 22-year-old going in, and I was going to come up with the marching curriculum for the camp. And I would go in and everyone would have to learn Jeremy Spicer's marching style at the camp. Well, the problem with that is they come back to your campuses and the band director would go, that's cool. That's neat. We're not doing any of that. Like that's cool. You're going to do what I say we're doing, which is they should. Like that's absolutely what they should do. It's their band program. So a big portion of the camp I thought was not as effective as it could have been because they like the leadership stuff and some of the conducting stuff and some of the marching stuff. But I was thinking, what could we do to make this even more impactful for the students? And that's why it hit me like a ton of bricks of well, let's help them be better teachers. What if we could teach the kids how to be better teachers, better role models, and learn how to self-diagnose some things. And then no matter what their directors were doing back at home in terms of marching technique, they're just better educators at whatever that technique was. So that's where we started developing the education side of the leadership camp so that we'd have leadership conducting some marching, but the marching was more under the umbrella of how to be a better teacher. So that's just a little bit about the expansion and how it's evolved.
Yeah, really, really cool. And every year, and I've had Sassy do camps when I was a teacher, now been a part of the Sassy team, which has been really great to see that as an insider and be on the team. And I think what people might not realize is how the curriculum evolves from year to year, that it isn't that, okay, this is what in the first hour we do this, and the second hour we do that. So talk through a bit about your curriculum development each year, how you change that to stay, ahead of the curve of the marching band activity.
Yeah. So like you said, every year it changes. I will say there are foundational things or foundational principles that exist in every curriculum that we do. There are some foundational modules that have been there since literally 2002, just one or two, I think probably that have stood the test of time. But every year, as you alluded to, Aaron, that we change everything. There is a new curriculum. Like there is Sassy, there's our logo, there's all of that, but there's a new curriculum that gets brought about every year. A couple of years ago, we did Ripple. We've done a curriculum entitled Illuminate. This year, we're doing a curriculum entitled Momentum. Last year, we did Vision. So everything has this kind of overarching concept to it, just like you might develop a marching band concept for a curriculum, or just like if you're going into a concert band and you want to put a concept onto or a program to what you're doing. It's the same thing here. I come up with something that I think will be impactful for students, and then we develop modules for that. And typically there's a gentleman that's been with us since '02. His name's Steve Smith. Who's our lead curriculum designer along with myself. And then we have a curriculum team, Manny Maldonado, Ryan Cerna, Chris E. All of these band directors and educators are on the team with me. And I usually will do round one of what I think the curriculum is, and I'll write a concept document, much like nowadays people are writing concept documents or things for a marching band show. I do the same kind of thing with the curriculum. I lay this out, and then I meet with Steve, my lead curriculum designer, and we discuss and go through it and poke holes in it and where are the issues, and we kind of get what we think it is in terms of flow, and then we bring on the others, and then they come in and they poke holes all over the place. And what if we did this, and what about that, and well, we could do it this way and we could do it that way. And then from that point, Steve and I meet again, and then Steve goes off and he's kind of the graphic designer of the book, and he'll take and he brings the technical to the creative. if you will. We had all the creative ideas, and then he brings it to life via the workbook. And he and I will banter back and forth about what it looks like. And it goes down like even into the colors of the book, the flow of the book, how long have they sat? How long have they, when's the last time they did an experience? When's the last time they did an activity? How long is the lunch going to be? Like, we take all of these things into account, because the goal is to, and I tell the staff to talk about this, that I want the experience to feel nothing like school, especially because the large majority of our camps exist in the summer, and the kids are done with school at that point, at least mentally and emotionally. So if it comes in and it feels like they're going to be lectured for 6 hours a day, they're not going to buy in. So a lot of what we do in terms of the curriculum development is making sure that it's experiential learning. There is a small amount of book work. There's a small amount of lecture, if you will, but it's all based in conversation. I think humans learn in stories. So I challenge a lot of the staff to bring to the table as many stories as they can to drive home what we're doing. But in addition to all of that, everything has experiences mapped out throughout the camp. And we make sure that the kids aren't necessarily seated longer than an hour or so, if that they're up, they're doing something, we're engaging with them. Even if it's a hand up, a sit down, stand up, walk over here. Like, we'll change locations all the time. Hey, come over here and sit down. Let's talk over here. Stand up, pair up, go over here. So we're trying to do things to get them up and about, to create something that's as engaging as possible for them, because it's a summer and they're students, they're kids, like they're anywhere from 14 to 18-year-old. So should they always pay attention and do yes, they should, but will they? No, because they're kids and they're human. And just like all of us have short attention spans, they do as well. And so we try to create a curriculum that can engage with them where they are.
How long is a camp? How many different blocks or days?
A typical camp is 2 days. We do, if we're going to broad stroke it, I would say probably 75% of our camps are 2-day camps. Probably another 20% are 1-day camps, and another 5% are half-day camps. Some do, less than 1% will do a 3 or 4-day camp. That's okay. And we do those, and we expand, and we're able to really dig in on some stuff when we do that. But the majority are 2 days. And those camps go 9 to 4. And that's broken down into a 9 to noon, noon to 1, 1 to 4 kind of vibe. 9 to noon is education, noon to 1 is lunch, 1 to 4 is education again. Sometimes that lunch period is longer, depending on what the band staff would like. They want to give their kids a little bit more of a break. And then within that 3-hour period, like I said, we're breaking all of that up. So that 3 hours intro plus a couple of modules plus a couple of activities, they go eat, come back, we're doing more. So yeah, it's 6 hours of instruction per day with an hour for lunch. If we were to broad stroke it, that would be what it all looks like.
Going back to, directors. So on this podcast, we have a lot of directors, we have some staff members, and we have actually some students also. You had mentioned that you have some foundational leadership concepts that are now going back 25 years. What are some of those foundations if let's say I'm a new director listening or a kid listening, where if you really want to do a great job in leadership of your program or leadership of your section, what are some of those foundational ideas?
I mean, the first and foremost, and we've said this phrase since literally 2002, literally since 2002, is a concept that I must have a positive relationship with the people that I lead. And that in any situation, you and I, like us as adults, or the dynamic of teacher-student, or the dynamic of student-student, like, you have to have positive relationships within all of that, because the bottom line is people do not have to listen or follow others. Like, if you were my leader or a colleague or an administrator of mine, Aaron, like, I don't have to follow you. I mean, I do because you're my boss, but at the end of the day, that doesn't make you an effective leader. And I tell the students that if the only reason that your peers are following you is because their band directors are making them follow you, or they're scared of you, you're not really good at what you're doing. And the key to the success of a student is they have to create a want in others for them to listen to them. Their peers have to want to listen to them. And the only way to do that, in my opinion, is to create positive relationships. And I don't mean that like we're all going to hold hands, kumbaya, and skip the fields with butterflies flying around, like everyone's going to just get along. It's not that at all. But they have to do the things to help create that want. Those are things as simple as learning the students' names in your section and beyond your section. to telling people good morning in the morning, or telling people have a great day at the end of the day and genuinely mean it, to ensure that students are like, there's a phrase that we use called no one eats alone, that no matter what, students are not eating by themselves unless of course they want to. Like there are times in all of our lives, yours included, mine, where I'm just done, my social battery's over, I need to go over there and be by myself for a second. But I think as teachers, educators, we all know that when we see that student by themselves, there's more going on there. And typically they're by themselves because they don't have the social skills yet to include themselves in a group. So rather than have that awkward interaction, they'd rather just go off on the side. I've had plenty of students do that. They want to be included. They want people to talk to them, but they just don't know how. So they remove themselves from the situation. So doing these little things to help develop relational capacity is huge, because that relational capacity will get you everywhere. And again, it creates that want in others to listen to you. And by doing all these things, like along the ways as leaders, we all have to do and say things and push and challenge people. And we think of those in kind of deposits and withdrawals. So if all you've done in your bank account is withdraw things out of your bank account, at some point you're going to get into the negative. You have to have lots of deposits. So that's what I talk to the students about. Like, well, have you deposited in that student? Have you hung out with that student? They're not listening to you. What have you done to create that want? And then hopefully along the way, you're able to withdraw some things, and they're okay with those withdrawals because you've done so much for them in the deposit side of things. So I think relational capacity, more than anything, would be something that would be foundational. That and our ability to communicate and how we communicate, and not just the words that we're saying, but how we communicate in terms of body language, things that we all as humans have to continually evaluate. How we communicate non-verbally is huge. And then how we communicate when there are disagreements and things aren't going the way that we think they should. How do we do that? And I guess I forgot one thing, going back to the relationship thing. It's not just the positive side of things. One of the big things that we talk about in the camp is that, yes, you must have a relationship with those that you lead. Now, I need you to all raise your hands if there are people in the band that you just don't like. Raise your hand if they're, and you'll see people like timidly, like kind of do the thing. And then I say, okay, that's fine. You're nervous to say that. Okay, that's fine. How about let's go the other way. How many of you, there are people in the band that don't like you? And all the student leaders, their hands will fly up. They're like, there it is. So again, not that we're going to, the rainbows and butterflies in the world is a happy place. Like, no, we have to talk about these things. There are people that are going to get on your nerves. There are people in this band program right now that get on your nerves, and you get on other people's nerves. Like, that's humans. And I always joke, and I have the band directors in the room, and I was like, you don't know this, but those band directors back there, some of you get on their nerves. But bottom line, and that band director back there, probably one of them, they get on your nerves. Like, it's just part of life. Like, it's just the human experience. So how are you going to be effective when you have people that you don't get along with? You get on their nerves, they get on your nerves. Like, what do you do? So we try to be more real with it. I think a lot of leadership camps, they walk away and it's like this sugary high of leadership. Like, yeah, I'm going to take over the world. And then 8 hours later, you're down from the sugar high and you're like, okay, cool. What did I get out of that? So one of the things that we try to do is just make sure that we're creating and giving and teaching skill sets that are real that they can take away.
I like that you talk so much about the communication and the relationships. I think that's such a important piece of the leadership component. I'm wondering, and you've been doing this for some time, have students' ability to communicate, have you seen a change in the last 20 years or so with them?
Yes, but it's just different. I just think students communicate differently. And I think it's real easy to, and I'm putting myself on this, to be the 46-year-old boomer, like kids these days and then like 20 years ago. But it's just different. They just communicate different. And I think our job as teachers is to find them where they're at and get them where we need them to be. Yes, we want them to communicate more effectively. We want them to be able to have a conversation. We want them to make eye contact and be able to dialogue with us and all of those things. But we have to meet them where they're at and to try to convince them to get where they want to be. So yes, is it different? Can they hold conversations as well as they maybe used to be able to? No, not necessarily. But that's what we're here for. That's our jobs as teachers, to help them realize that what they're doing now or how they're doing now may not be the most effective. And then also on the flip side, maybe there's something we as the adults can learn from them and how they're communicating. So I know that's kind of a politically correct answer, but I do think it's both sides. I think they do communicate differently, and that's okay. And I do think that we have to meet them where they are so that we could teach them what we want them to get out of it. So yeah, I think the whole, I mean, we could, the bane of everyone's existence in the cell phones and the constancy of all of that, and it's there, and that's just their generation. They text. I think if you were to ask most students today, how many of you screen your calls when someone calls you, and you screen it, but you'll immediately text them back because it's just more comfortable for them. So we have to try to get them and convince them that this is a value in learning how to communicate maybe a different way. So I guess the answer is yes and no.
Yeah, and in our activity, of course, the kids have to communicate. They have to communicate to the audience. They have to communicate with each other. Like for all the tech, we're still pretty much in a low to no tech world. Like they're giving one-to-one instruction to a student who's struggling in their section, or they're giving 1 to 15 in their section, anything like that.
Yes.
What are some strategies that you have found can help kids kind of get from that, that thumbs to, just getting out there and doing the communication piece at a higher level?
Well, I think in the idea and context of momentum, they just have to start. And a lot of times they're just scared to start. That they're worried that they're going to look silly. So some of the things that I try to do is make myself look silly, to put myself out there and put them in situations where it's okay to have a little bit of fun, try to pull some of the barriers down of the insecurities that maybe everyone feels. But then we very much get in the weeds, and we talk about, like, I make them practice out loud, like saying their leader voice. And like we're talking the way that we are right now, but I very much talk about having a leadership voice, and I'll elevate my voice and I'll start talking like this when I'm in the clamp and I'm doing all of these things. And I would never ever, and I always tell a joke, like last night I was at dinner with your band directors and I didn't sit across from the table talking like this because that would be ridiculous, but I'm here. So I have to talk like this, and I have to engage my voice to engage you because that's my job. And I try to get them, so then I make it a big deal, and I make them go this, and I do this big inflection, and they make it, and then they won't do it. Then I'll call them out. I was like, "No, Aaron, go say it this."
This is my leader voice.
Exactly. This is my leader voice, and I make them do it, and I make a big joke out of it. And then I go around the room and I go, "Martin, your turn," and so on and so forth. And then you'll get some soft-spoken little young man or young woman, and they'll. Nope, we all cheer. And then I turn it into a cheerleader routine of no, like everyone, let's get, she's got it or he's got it in her. Let's make them, we can do it. And eventually they'll get it. I'm like, see, you can do it. And then sometimes I'll even challenge them. Can I challenge you? Like, are you okay? Like, I want to challenge with choice. Like, but can I challenge? And like, you'll get some meek little child like, sweet, stand up on that chair right there. And I make them get up on the chair, and I make them put their arms out like this. And I make them this, and just again, everything that we can do. And then we celebrate all of the things just to let them know that communication is not, it is scary, but you just have to do it. And a lot of that is just thinking about the idea of stepping out of your comfort zone. And like a lot of some of these great experiences are going to happen. And some of the best experiences in all of our lives, I would imagine, have occurred by doing hard things and pushing ourselves outside of our comfort zone. So we talk about just inflection. We very much talk about eye contact. We talk about where you're we get in the weeds, where your body should be. If you're nervous, and I always ask them, like, how many of you, like a lot of them, they stand like this, but they don't know what to do. So because somewhere along the way, someone told them that they shouldn't stand like this. So then they're like, okay, well, I can't stand like that because that's wrong. Well, then they put their hands at their side. They're like, well, now I feel awkward. And I've asked them, like, how many of you crossed your arms because you don't know what to do with your arms or your hands? Most of the room will raise their hand. It's like, exactly. They don't know what to do. So we talk about you see me, like I do that. I'm gestural, like I'm a gestural teacher. So I tell them, like, let that, it's my nervous energy coming out. When I teach, I'm very gestural. My hands are moving, but I tell them, some of you are not going to be that. So put your hands behind your back, and fiddle with your hands behind your back, whatever it means for you. But we try to give them so many different, very concrete things to do as it relates to education and teaching. We'll go even into, we develop teaching through catchphrases. And whatever that means, I'll help with the band directors and the section leaders will come up with the catchphrases for that school. If they're a straight leg technique school, we talk about pendulum motion from the hip, push forward, not up, lift up to land soft, like all of these short little catchphrases. And what I'm trying to teach them as educators is to say less words and let the kids do it more. So everything is very black and white and concrete to give them as many skills to teaching. We start very much with the 2 + 2 = 4, and then over time we expand it.
Are there some common mistakes that you see some newer leaders make? And then, or can you even like predict this is something that they may be doing? And do you have any tips on things that you could tell them to help avoid those common mistakes?
Young leaders just try to control too much, and they expect and demand that others should follow. Like, I'm your leader. Like, I straight up, I was doing a marching band clinic a few years back, and some drum major was walking around the field, and they had gone through the Sassy training and the whole thing, and they were walking around the field, and like this one young man, drum major, he turned to this kid and was like, "I'm your drum major. You will listen to me." And I was like, "Okay, okay." And I just politely brought the kid aside. I was like, "Hey, man, how we doing? Like, we doing all right? We doing all right?" Like, "Well, no one's listening to me, and no one's doing blah 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 blah." And I was like, "Well, you, you're right. They're not, and they're not going to just because you tell them they have to. I know that may work in other situations. This is not going to work." So I think a lot of the young students, they try to control things. They try to control the situations. They try to, versus being the best version of themselves, trying to, I'm here in service of others. And I think if they can get to the point of being there in service of others and get that framed in their brain, then that will guide all of their decisions. But we were all young student leaders. I was a young band director on my first leadership. Like, there is a certain control of it. I finally got the role. Like, I get to do what I've always wanted to do, and you're going to do it my way, and all of that. Like, I'm not preaching from being like talking down the kids these days. I don't know what they like. We've all been there. We've all been a little bit of megalomaniac, overly controlling. So I try to approach it from that. It was like, hey, like, what could you do to get that student to listen to you? When's the last time you had a conversation with that student outside of rehearsal? Have you ever had a conversation with that student outside of rehearsal? Do you know any of their likes or dislikes, any of their interests or their hobbies? Like, do you have any of that context? So maybe there's a reason that they're not listening to you. I also, a lot of students forget that we're all human. And what I mean by that is, there's a great video by Angelo, and it's a very like minute 15. You should all look it up if you're listening to this podcast. It's called Rainbow in the Clouds, and it's a very very short video. But the idea being that we've all had clouds, and our jobs as leaders to be the rainbow in someone else's clouds. And where I take that with is, how many of you have as students in the past gone up to someone and everything in your mind, body, heart, and soul, you were trying to help them. There was nothing negative in your brain, but their response back to you was less than positive. And you'll get the whole room raise their hands. Now, I'll even go one step further. How many of you had a student that you've really been trying to help, and right before your eyes, the student starts crying? Like, you're like, "Oh my goodness, like, what did I?" And I know both Martin and Aaron, both of you have had that. I've had it as a teacher. Like, "Oh my gosh, what did I just do? Like, why is this child crying? What could I do to fix it?" And what I tell them is that you may not know what's going on in their lives. Like, we've all been there. We all got stuff. We all need rainbows, and to be a rainbow in someone else's cloud. We all got stuff on any given day. And it's our job to figure out what we can do to help that student in that situation. And not to quote another, like, whatever, but hopefully you've all watched Ted Lasso. If you're listening to this podcast, if you haven't watched Ted Lasso, you should. You should watch it first because it's super funny and engaging and just a great series. And then you should watch the whole thing again in the context of leadership.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a brilliant case study. But there's a scene in there, and it's a bar scene where they're playing darts, and I won't get into the weeds of it. But there's this whole thing about Walt Whitman quote of "Be curious, not judgmental." When someone responds to you in a way that you don't think they should have responded to you in that way, our job in that situation is to be curious why they're responding that way, not judgmental of why they're responding that way. And that sounds very altruistic, and I believe it. But when the rubber meets the road, that's real hard because we're humans. Because emotions get into play, and all of a sudden, like, "You need to listen to me. Why aren't you listening to me? You need to quit crying. You need to blah, blah, blah." No, we need to figure out what's going on in that situation. So I think, to go back, the long-winded, students try to control too much. They try to overly dominate the situation versus stepping back, try to be the best version of themselves, try to be there for others in the service of others. So that would be my challenge to students. I would always, as a band director, they're come in, "Spicer, so-and-so's not listening to me." Sweet. Have you had lunch with that person? Have you done this with that person? Do you know anything about that person? And they'll stare at me blankly. It's like, "Okay, leave the office. Go fix that first." And inevitably, once they did all those things, that the student will more often than not start listening. Now, I will say, on the flip of that, as we all know, on the band directors listening out there, And students, I want you to hear, there are some jerks in the world. That just is what it is. There are some jerks, and you're going to do everything right as a student leader, and there's going to be some people that just don't listen to you. They just don't. They're not going to. And that's where I say, at that point, students, and I always ask them, how much do you get paid to be a student leader? And they all raise their hand. They're all excited. I was like, no, say it out. Everyone say it out loud together. Nothing. I was like, and how much work do you do? So much work. I was like, exactly. So when that student's not listening to you, I want you to remember this statement. That's above your pay grade. And too often students will try to discipline other students. And I always tell them, as soon as you do that, game over. And there are a lot of directors that like their students to discipline other students. I think it's a bad idea in every regard, from students making other students run laps to doing push-ups to staying after rehearsal. If it gets to a punitive situation, that's where the band director has to take over. Because as soon as that student disciplines another student, they've been put in a situation not to succeed, in my opinion, at least. So I try to do everything that I can to, you do all your stuff. You do all, and once you've built and developed and all of that, but if it gets to that point that you've done everything in your power to connect with that child and they're still not doing what you think they need to be doing, that's where you go to the boss man or the boss lady and say, hey, I've done everything. Now what?
Yeah. Yeah. And there was just a national news story on that of some, and I don't think it was a student leader. I think it was an actual teacher who was disciplining his students by doing like 400 push-ups. He's like, we're going to do push-ups for the next half hour straight. And that's a national news story on a case study on like what not to do. Yeah. I strongly want to echo what Mr. Spicer says here of, kids should not be physically disciplining other kids ever. And should physical exercise be a negative consequence? Is that the message we're trying to say? Of course not. Like
Exactly.
let's take a lap together. This is going to be fun. That's more of the thing we're doing. What are some other things like that you've seen? Because you've now had this, you've had this incredible career in the classroom. You've had an incredible career out of the classroom. What are some other pitfalls that you've seen young directors, maybe young staff members or young kids go through where you just want to be like, hey, can we chat for a second? I know exactly where this leads, and I just want to protect you from going down this path.
As teachers, I think some of the young teachers, I don't know any other way to say it, but they just talk too much. They try to over explain stuff. And I tried to, when I was a young teacher and a young leader of others, try to teach and lead in a way that, and I can admit it, it's not red anymore, but used to be more red, fiery redheaded personality when I was in high school. I was one of those ones that was right, wrong, or different. Prove to me why I should listen to you kind of thing. And I try to approach my teaching as if I was trying to reach, and I called myself the rebel without a cause. I didn't have a cause of any of that. I knew when I was 15 I was going to be a band director, but I was still a pain in the butt for my high school band director sometimes. So it's those rebels without a cause, and how do you reach those rebels without a cause? So I try to talk to young band directors about, how are you approaching all students in the room? Should they all love music? Yes. Are they going to? No. So how are you going to connect with them? And I think a lot of times some of those rebels are just like, it's especially in the short attention span theater of what this generation is going through. And it's always been there, but it's just worse now in terms of their attention is being pulled every single direction. I can tell my attention span is a little bit less than it used to be. And the TikTok generation of 30-second to 5-minute videos, and like they want to swipe and move on and move on, move on. We have to reach them where they are. So talking less would be a huge thing that I would talk to young band directors about, just talking less, having the students do more, being more engaging in how you approach their talking. And a lot of times I've had young leaders, well, they just needed, this is who I am as a person. I'm not going to inflect my voice like that. I can't be you, Jeremy. I can't be this person. I can't be that person. I'm just like, of course, I get that. And that's where we talk about, you have to, and I talk to student leaders about this as well. You have to develop your own brand. Aaron is not going to do a Sassy Leadership camp the way that Jeremy Spicer does it, nor should he, because it would be disingenuous and not read correctly. And I think the students would not listen or be as engaged as if Aaron was just genuinely Aaron, taking the curriculum and making it his own. I think that's the same thing for young leaders, developing your brand. Young band directors, developing your brand. What does high energy look like for you? What is you getting excited? What is you being upset look like? All of those things, and developing it within their own personality. That's just a couple of things. Does that answer your question? Or
yeah, I've seen that. Also, there's this word. Let's say you got 100 words to say this thing. Could you say it in 20? Could you say it in 10? Could you say it in 5? And a strategy I found that band band directors have used, and I think it works pretty well, is, the metronome's going and there's 8 counts in between each rep. So you got exactly 8 counts at your given tempo to say whatever it is. Again, with, again, with feeling. I mean, it's like a trope thing, but again, louder, again, softer, again, with more resonance, just some really, really short thing that they could work on can be really helpful. So,
yeah. And I think we just try to over explain. And there's some times where it's like, no, when we have to get into the mechanics of embouchure, tongue placement, hands, this, that, blah, blah, blah. The foot should go here. The pinky toe needs to be here on count 16 of the choreo. Like, I get it. There's times for explanation, but then there are times that like you just got to do the thing. Like, just, nope, hear that clicking metronome thing? Go ahead and put your heels with it. Like, go ahead and try to get your feet on the downbeat. Take it back, do it again. Nope, you're still, nope. That clicking thing is what I need you to go ahead and be with. Do it again. And a lot of times, young teachers, I see it doesn't happen the first time. I'm like, no, well, now I have to explain. And the students are just like, oh, I just can't do it right now because I can't do it. Let me just do it again. Let me do it again. So I think it's a balance of reps versus education kind of stuff to keep kids engaged.
Some staff member, and maybe it was a staff member that we shared, would do an instant reset. It was like, we're going to do 3 reps. This is in the marching band. We're going to do 3 reps in a row. No commentary. There's not going to be commentary between these reps. As soon as you're done the rep, reset, do it again. And then after 3 or 4 or 5 sets, now let's talk about it. Because then the kids actually get a chance to experience it. And we do that in our own practicing when we play our instruments. Like, you got to play it a number of times just to figure it out. Is that something that you've done, Martin?
Yeah, and you know what? I always feel like in the marching band setting, there's too much talk coming from the box. Try to remove a lot of that. Never do I sometimes, but really I don't want to have more than 2 people saying anything from the box. There'll be times, and I know that some has to come from my percussion and my, viz person, and I'll be like, you know what? I'm not saying anything on this one. Let's reset for that reason. I mean, they get too much information and that they don't need it. So I think those are great.
And I also will tell the student leaders, because a lot of times they don't know what to say. So I'll teach them a system of, say, you are my section, Martin and Aaron. Okay, we just worked on 1 step forward, Martin and Aaron, and you just take 5 first steps and then go to standby. And all I'm doing, I'm not saying a word. I'm just watching Martin and Aaron do their thing. And the whole time what I'm training the students is like, what am I going to say? 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 Martin and Aaron are, okay, they look like they're both doing this. This is the number one word. What's most bad? Okay, sweet. Then when they both go to standby, then I'm able, as a student leader, I'm able to go, okay, what I'm seeing is y'all need to make sure you're doing this. Here's this. Sweet. Do 5 more on your own. Versus they could get 5 reps in, quit, versus this being 1. Move 1. That's how long it took to get 1 rep versus a student just standing there going, boop, boop. I have the metronome going, boop. They're able to get 4, 5, 6 reps in the amount of time it took me to get 1 in. Then I give them a little bit of information and they get 5 or 6 more reps in. And the whole goal being that we're able to just do the thing more. Like, you watch, and one of the best horn lines that's ever horn lined is that Crown horn line that Matt's taught forever long, him and his team at Crown. I mean, they're incredible. And you watch a lot of, like, of course, they're master educators. They do so much well. You watch their sectionals though, but you go in and a lot of it, they just do it more. And I've talked to Matt about it. He's like, I want to play the book more than any other horn lines playing their book. And there'll be times even in the lot where it's just like, we're going to get some time on the technique. And you just hear him go, boo, yeah. Boo, yeah.
Yep.
Over and over. And Matt's like, no, put your fingers harder. He'll just say like these one little things. And that's the Carolina Crown horn line. Won all these aughts, all these years. And Matt and his team are just going around. They're just getting time on the horns. They're just trying to get them to do the thing. So the anything that we can do as teachers and leaders to just get the kids to do the thing more, well, they're going to be better at the thing in the end.
Yeah, so cool. And Matt, I should say here on the pod, we're going to have Matt Harloff and his wife Susie Harloff. They're going to be coming down to Arizona in August and doing a big PD day for our staff, our students, directors. So it's going to be really cool to get their take on exactly what you're saying. And some of our students and some of our directors, they've grown up watching these Matt Harloff videos on YouTube. You drop in the hammer and he's got the the whole thing, and they see that stuff. So it's going to be great to have them here in person.
Yeah. And he'll be able to talk about how you get from inception to that dropping the hammer, the moment that everyone hypes, like the YouTube, Instagram, TikTok vid that everyone was like, oh my gosh, did you hear the horn line? But it didn't just magically happen that way. That was a process developed by Matt and his entire team for 20 plus years. So yeah, it's good. That's great for all the teachers. Y'all need to tune into that and go to that PD for sure.
And giving the students the time, like you said, to work on that first step. That's not just a marching band technique, in my opinion. I use it in concert band all the time because students know what they need to do the majority of the time, especially musically. They just need a couple reps. And usually I just say, all right, you guys have 13 seconds. Work on, fill in the blank. And then we go on. And it's better that they get more done than if I were to flap my gums, for sure.
Yeah, Mike Howard, one of the best concert band and marching band educators to ever do the thing. He was at Vandergrift for years, and went on to be the fine arts director. But he would do something when he was my assistant. We worked together at Vandergrift, and I learned it from him. He would make the second band at Vandergrift like start after they did some breathing thing. He would talk to them about, I want your 5 best note starts on a concert F, or whatever note that he wanted them to do. And when you're done with that, I want you to go and put your horn in your lap. And that was his basically the exact same thing of take 5 first steps and then go to standby. Mike was doing it with your take 5 beautiful first notes for whatever level you are as a musician. Try to make your best first sound 5 times and then put your instrument in your lap. And Mike would take everything that he heard in and he put all their horns up, give them some information that would benefit the whole group. And then he'd be into some ensemble exercise, whatever that would be. So yeah, it works. To your point, it works everywhere.
Oh, that's cool. So, diving into that a little bit. So he would say, all right, your 5 best note starts, and then it's ba, 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 ba. It's like popcorn. Every kid's just doing. That's awesome. That's a really, really great strategy. Super cool.
Yeah, they just doing their thing because he wants them to basically, and he would tell them, close your eyes, just listen to you. I just want da, take a deep breath, get it out. Da, and try to have no noise. And like you said, it's just popcorn around the room. And then he would bring them together in some kind of ensemble situation.
Yeah, I think first hour on Monday, I'm going to be doing that with my ensemble, trying that out. I like that. I like that.
That's good.
I actually have one final thought. Do you have any suggestions or thoughts for directors that may not have access to leadership programs like Sassy, things that they could do to help build strong leaders in their program?
Yeah, I mean, I would recommend, and I tell a lot of people, do book studies with them. There's some great books out there. One of the first books that I ask all the staff at Sassy to read is called A 1 Minute Manager by Kenneth Blanchard. But there are so many that you could, any of the John Maxwell books. And what I did when I was an educator in the spring, we would have spring leadership development, but it started in January. Like it wasn't just like a camp in May to get ready for the next year. If you want to, like we would tell the current leadership team had to attend these, and then anyone interested, we encourage you should probably come to these. And it would be a book study, and they would read a chapter a week. And we would just come in during lunch 1 day a week and just talk about whatever was in that chapter. And what do you hear? And what can we put into place for this week? What actions are we going to do this week based on that chapter? So I think there's so many free things out there and it just challenges students to read again and open a book and do all of that. And I know that sounds like I'm talking down our kids these days, but just like for all of us, like let's crack a book and read again. So I think book studies are great for leadership development. If they don't have access to other things out there, I think grab a book and just come up with your own curriculum based on that book. Like you could read it, come up with some questions. There's many of the books have like at the end of each chapter, they give you things to do to practice that I think could be great. There's the Culture Code is a great book. That would be one. Energy Bus is a great book. And then there's some that have nothing to Creativity Inc. has nothing and everything to do with leadership. That's another great book that has with the Disney thing. And I think that's by Catmull's, the gentleman's name. But there's also Creativity Process or something like that. And she was a dancer. So I think any number of those book studies would be a great opportunity to develop curriculum that are free or very, very, very cost effective. They could get those books online on Amazon for next to nothing and then just all read them together.
Yeah, that's a great idea. That's something that I did in my own programs. Like, hey, you want to be a section leader this year in January, end of January, every Wednesday, we're going to be hanging out and we're studying this book. Here's the Amazon link. Go for the book. Some of the ones we did were James Clear, Atomic Habits.
Yes.
7 Habits of Highly Effective People. We did do Culture Code, but some great ones. And Martin, we can probably put in a list in the link in the bio. Don't do all of them, band directors, but pick one. And what a great way for the director too to have that cycle of continuous improvement in their own personal leadership is they're taking their kids through a new book to themselves. You just have to be one chapter.
There's a great quote by Maxwell, the author that I was quoting. It. He says leadership is built daily, not in a day. Yep. And a lot of times, and what you're saying right now, I would challenge the directors out there. It's great. You have a 2-day leadership camp, 3-day leadership camp, 1-day leadership camp, half-day leadership camp, week-long leadership camp, 2-week leadership camp. Cool. But if you're not continually monitoring those leaders throughout the entire year, it's not going to work. And then you're going to throw the baby out with the bathwater and try another thing. Well, I brought now this person in, or we tried this book now. This book doesn't work either. Well, my leaders are just not good. Okay. Well, it's because we oftentimes just send them to camp and think, okay, well, now you're a leader. Here's your certificate. It's like, well, no, it's going to be built daily, and it's an ongoing, and it's for us still to for all of us as adults, that our leadership capacity is being built daily. We have to work on it for just like anything, we have to practice it.
Yeah. And if there's folks out there that are interested in, they've gone down this, they've listened to this podcast, they're interested in booking a Sassy camp, how would they go through that process?
You can reach out to us via our website, super easy, www.studentsleading.org. Students is plural, STUDENTSLEADING.org. Or you could just look up Sassy Leadership, SASI Leadership, and you can find us there. But yeah, if you reach out there, there's an info contact us link, and you take that contact us link and it'll come directly to myself and the Director of Operations, Greg White, and we would be in touch with you within 24 hours.
Cool. And it looks like I've got a little one here with me.
I love it.
My Aiden. I know you have an Aiden also.
I do have. Hi, Aiden. How's it going? I see another. Hello.
Excellent. Okay. So, Jeremy, wondering, do you have any shout outs that you would like to give to anybody as we're closing up?
Well, first and foremost, I shout out to all the people that have supported the Sassy experience for the last 20-something years, beginning in 2002. We thank you for allowing us the opportunity to serve your students in your program, and shout out to all the staff that's been with the Sassy brand for all these years, and engaging kids around the country and in certain situations around the world. So yeah, I just thank you to everyone that's given us a shot. And I promise that if you give us a shot, you will not be disappointed in what the experience for your students.
Well, we appreciate you sharing your time with us today. We know how busy you can be. And to all of our listeners, we want to hear from you. A reminder that we have an email address, podcast@azmba.org. And the question that we've asked you is, do you have any summer or end of year band dilemmas that you would like to share? Thank you for coming on.
Thanks,
Thank you for having me.